Welcome back to the Who's Reality Cooking Podcast. I'm Audrey Johns, and today I have Mark Lee from Killer Cakes. Mark, how are you?
I'm doing good. Thank you for asking.
I just heard about Killer Cakes. I was interviewing a gal from Is It Cake, and I asked her, are there any shows you want to be on? And she said Killer Cakes, and I had to look it up right away. And I messaged you right away, and you said yes. So I'm so excited to have you on and to hear about this new show. Is it the only show you've been on thus far?
Um, actually, no. I kind of have a little bit of a history of shows. The first show I was actually on was the Food Network Cake Challenge. So back probably one of the last seasons, and that was what, 2011. And I've pretty much done a show almost every year since. So actually, Killer Cakes is, I think my 10th show that I've been on. So yeah, obviously I like doing competition TV shows.
I love that so much. And very often I'm interviewing people in the cake world, and I have found that I think it's just a really fun environment, and you guys all have a lot of fun. It's definitely different on the on the baking shows are really fun, and on the cooking shows it's kind of like, you know, you never know what you're
Yeah,
gonna
yeah,
get.
it's true. Well, I mean, it's different. I mean, it's like I get it. They're trying to get a wider audience because there's the home bakers that do cookies and cakes, and it's the easiest step in going into like the I think the culinary world versus going into more of the savory kind of stuff because it's more involved. There's more to it. Yeah.
So can you explain to the listeners and the viewers what Killer Cakes is all about in your own words?
Sure. Killer Cakes was a show that kind of came about, I think, kind of a little bit of a competition to the Food Network, Halloween Wars, or some of those kind of, the Halloween themed stuff. So it's a little more, and I don't want to say R-rated. It was PG-13 rated, I guess you could say, because the backers they actually had was Blumhouse Studios, of course Amazon Prime, and actually Matthew Lillard was the host. So he was been on a number of horror movies, and he's a horror icon. So actually having him as a host was great and a cool experience to have.
That is so cool. Is it one of your favorite shows? Do you have a specific show that was your favorite out of everything that you've done?
Out of the shows, most of them have been on Food Network. Did do the Disney Plus Foodtastic show. Um, you know, I love Halloween and all the creepy kind of things that don't look like cake and looks gross and makes you not want to eat it. But um, so I like kind of pushing that kind of envelope a little bit. Like I said, so I've done a couple different Halloween shows. And this one was nice because, they want, yes, we want gore, we want vomit, we want like whatever gross things you do. I mean, if you watch a show, the themes that I had for mine, yeah, they're not probably kid friendly, more or less, but, the theme was a serial killer and how are you going to kill a serial killer? So, it was great to kind of expand to that and not feel like you have to feel restrained of what you kind of could do creatively.
That and so often these baking shows are very geared towards the little kids, and but it sounds like yours is a little bit more trying to pull in the teens and obviously the adults as well. It sounds so much fun. And you said it's on Amazon Prime for anybody looking to watch.
Yes, it's on Amazon Prime called Killer Cakes. I don't know how long they're going to keep it on there. I mean, it was definitely released around Halloween, but the thing is, there's a whole resurgence of horror movies this past, I think, couple of years. And so I think it fit well into, hey, here's something fun and a lighthearted kind of horror aspect to it, but still had that same kind of venue of it. So,
That is so cool. Do you have a favorite horror film? Do you watch a lot of horror
um,
films?
I am a horror buff. I do like, actually, I like the classics, all the practical special effects. So The Thing was one of my favorites. Love the Alien franchise, of course, kind of like the sci-fi and the horror stuff. So it was actually kind of cool having, special effects professionals on the show that were actually there kind of helping us with some of the practical effects that we had to do. Of course, you never know who they were because it's like they're all behind the scenes, so you never see them. But Tom Woodruff Jr. was like he actually worked, I think, on this thing, and he worked on Alien. He worked on all these movies that I grew up with and watching, and I'm like, cool because you know they actually had us in one of the back rooms where they actually had the special effects set up, and like and all the prosthetics and stuff there, and I was playing around with them because, I wish, I always thought, yeah, I could go into like special effects and do that, but it never happened. So, but it was kind of cool to see that first.
That's so cool. And you're still doing art. Your medium is a little bit more delicious, is all right.
Correct. That is true.
Do you have any, fun behind the scenes stories that you're allowed to tell, of course?
I mean, behind the scenes stories, I think every show, they're always kind of different, depends on the production group. I've had the opportunity to do a lot of the pilot shows, so they are a little bit lax of, because they don't know what they want to film yet, and they're doing different kind of things. So there's a lot of times where you're kind of standing around and waiting. So like I said, I was in that back room where they actually had the prosthetics and stuff, and I was messing around playing with like the fake eyeball and trying to like taste it or something, or so sneaking those little pictures in, it's for my own kind of personal things. And the thing they didn't show actually either was in the culinary kitchen for that show, where they actually had a lot of our ingredients. They also had like fake ingredients, like like a jar of eyeballs, a jar of bones and stuff like that, and some other pig parts. And so I snapped some of those pictures, but it never got into the editing, and they never showed it. So you know
That's too bad. But it's special for you. And if you're allowed to send those pictures to me, please do, because we can definitely paste them on here so everybody can get a little visual. So you've done so many of these shows. Have you made any friends in the industry? And if so, how do you keep in contact? Do you end up running into each other on different shows? What does that look like?
Yeah, I mean, there is a certain kind of group that kind of likes doing the cake shows, and they casting directors, have a certain net that they cast, I think, to certain people who've been on shows. I think benefit of me is being single male minority Asian, that the making there's not a whole lot, so there's only a few of us. So maybe that kind of helps. But yeah, friends, since we kind of bake, we're all do it individually in our own, either in our shop or in our homes. So we're all in separate places. So when actually COVID came around and in lockdown, the internet became essential because there was no cake expos going on and everything. So that was the only kind of way to stay in touch with the cake community or the cookie community. And, I've had like good friendships from that, of like acquaintances of people online. And then you finally, when it kind of opened up, you go to these expos again and go, hey, yeah, I'm your fans, or friends on Facebook. So it's good when we kind of get together with those things. And yeah, it's I mean, same on your side, probably. I'm sure it's a close knit kind of group of community. That's how I learned a lot of stuff too, of like reaching out to people and figure out, okay, well, how do you do this technique, or how do you do that? Because I have no culinary background, so I mean, I had to learn and start and figure things out myself, and ask those questions.
That's been a constant across all of the baking world that I've interviewed, mostly in season one. And everybody is just so giving with their knowledge. And I love that. It's such a great community of just support. And I, it's not like
It
that
has
in
it has changed a
I,
little bit, but
oh, how's it
since
now?
I've
Is it
been,
getting a little
I mean,
cutthroat?
well, there was, I think, a certain time where people were like, trying to figure out their own brand and figure out, okay, how can I succeed in this industry and make money and make a living doing it? So they would come up with certain techniques and say, oh, I created this technique, or I did this. And then, you know, you'd have to take the class to figure out, and that's, and do it. But, it's not rocket science. It's not magic. There's ways you can figure it out. And everything's been done before. So it's just trying to figure it a little differently and twist it in your own way. So, mhm.
That's so cool. And I always tell people, when it comes to cooking or baking, it's not the end of the world if something goes wrong. You can, when it comes to cooking, you can order a pizza. When it comes to baking, you could just,
Yeah. Well,
eat,
and on
just eat it.
these shows, they know no one eats the displays anyway. Just the treats and stuff.
Well, what city do you live in right now? Can you share a little bit about the food
Sure.
scene there?
I am actually in a suburb just south of Chicago. So I kind of lived all around Chicago. I kind of moved here after college and kind of stayed. So, it is an awesome city. There's so much kind of ethnic backgrounds here and different kind of food cultures that you could pretty much have anything you want and you could probably find. Big Polish community, big Puerto Rican community, big Latino, all sorts of Asians, Korean, Vietnamese, Chinese, there's tons. So yeah, some of my favorites is I do love going down to Chinatown. There's this great dumpling house where they have the old ladies in the background baking the dumplings by hand. That's always a nice spot. I always take my kids there and new friends that come to visit. So that and, do love seafood. It's great seafood around here too as well. But, we're landlocked in Chicago. It's not as you get as much as you get on the coast. They have to ship it in, but you still find good stuff.
I see. I've never been to Chicago. I had no
No.
idea I could get good dumplings there. I live in Boise, and every single time we get out of town, that's the first thing I'm looking for. I'm like, where can I get dim sum? Like, I need to
Yeah.
find a
Oh
place
yeah.
because you can't get it here. It's such a, small town. So
Yeah, I
very
can't see Boise having a large Asian community.
no,
No.
it's kind of heartbreaking our lack of diverse food here. So
Gotcha.
and
Well,
growing up in what's that?
if you come and visit Chicago, hit me up and I'll take you to the dim sum places where to go to. So
Well,
yeah,
I'm like going to be checking flights as soon as we're done here.
there you go.
So, what are you doing now? Do you work in the baking world or do you have a different job?
Actually, I've always kind of been working as a creative. Kind of background in graphic design, and a little bit into 3D. Went to school for graphic design, minor in sculpture. I noticed that's a lot happens to a lot of cake people. It's the same kind of background a little bit. But I had kids, I was married, I had responsibilities, so I didn't have a full-time job. And, everyone I would hear from people that own bakeries or own their own production places, it's hard work. It's a lot of weekends, it's a lot of time devoted, and I've seen a lot of things fall apart from that. And that was something I never wanted. So it always kind of thought that, especially with the cakes I used to do, were very kind of sculptural and very limited to what I could do per weekend, kind of like 2, 3 max per weekend with the amount of details I put in them. So it was kind of hard to make that like, oh yeah, I can make this a full-time living. So I always wanted to be, yeah, as an extra bonus. And then I could pick and choose what kind of projects I wanted to do. And then, like I said, at least just make cakes for my family and not have to worry about paying for anybody. So
I think it's great. You have a hobby that you make a little money on the side with.
yeah,
It
that's,
doesn't get much better than that.
that is true.
Do you bake a lot with your kids?
They're teenagers now, so they're kind of like,
Yeah.
and same thing. It's like, if I've been on a show, they're like, I mean, they only get excited when their friends ask them about it and say, oh, your dad's on the show. And they're like, yeah. Then they perk up and then I feel like I'm kind of relevant a bit to them, but who knows? So they like when I cook for them. I like cooking for other people. I think that's the fun thing about cooking is because you get to share what you're making creatively, and enjoying it. And the nice thing is that it's temporary. So it's like, once it's gone, it's gone. So that's the fun part about it.
To agree. What do you like? What are your favorite things to make for your kids for dinner or for their lunches, or even favorite desserts?
Well, you'll be jealous because they're just here this weekend, so I made them dim sum actually.
Oh my God, you're killing me, man.
But no, actually, so savory side, my favorite is eggs Benedict, and I was like, how do you make this stuff and like poach an egg? It's a lot to do with the timing. Um, so I kind of perfected that down. I do, I cheat a little bit and do the pre-made holiday sauce, but still, um, yeah, eggs Benedict are my thing. I also actually I look back now, it's been 21 years. I make creme brulee on every New Year's Eve. So that's kind of been my tradition and thing and get the torch out and do the whole flambeing and yeah, so that's just a fun thing I like to do.
Very cool. If you have like some big pie in the sky dream about, would you want to open up your own bakery or are you just happy just doing it as a hobby?
You know, it's been a while. My cake journey has been different. I think when I was doing it more for clients, that was kind of through my marriage. But then when I got divorced, kind of moved to a new location, so kind of lost my client base. I haven't really been doing cakes as much for customers. Occasionally I'll do 1 or 2 projects I want. If something comes up that I'm interested in, I also helped out a group called Icing Smiles. They actually do cakes for like terminally ill children. So it's a whole organization that, you volunteer and you bake a cake for, like a dream cake for a child or something. So I was helping out with them as well. But now I guess, I like doing the TV field because it's like, they'll pay you to go out there and they'll, use all their ingredients and, do some creative stuff that you can do for clients. And then actually when the expos come around, there's the competitions that they do there as well. So I'll do like a competition cake, to try to do some new techniques or do different materials because, I'm a details guy and I like seeing different things other than just cake ingredients. Like I was using noodles on a competition once. Rice paper is a big thing now. Gelatin and all those different kind of mediums that you really wouldn't use in like a baking competition, but you know, stuff works. And it's all edible, so it passed.
Yeah, I love it. Can you share a little bit more about the cakes you were making for the terminally ill kids? Is there a specific one that stands out that you made or that someone else made?
Um, yeah, I mean, I think the most, which I could probably send you a picture too. The
Yeah,
most
please do.
memorable one was for a child. He was going in for some surgery or something, but then he nicked his aorta or something like that, and it caused some other issues. And he was around the same age around my son was at the time, so you know, it feels a little more, tear-jerky kind of thing,
Yeah.
thinking like,
Oh,
well, I know, but like, so he had the theme of like a Disney cake or something like that, a Mickey Mouse Clubhouse or something, and made that. And when he saw it, he just lit up and it was just like crazy. And, the mom's crying into the corner and stuff. And it's like, this makes it worthwhile. So those are the things that like why you kind of do cake because you're there to celebrate someone and make that special moment. Because I've had clients come up to me, years later and say, "Oh, do you remember that cake you did for me at one time? We still talk about it." I'm like, "Oh yeah, I remember that." So those are kind of things like, yeah, that makes it good. But getting paid for it gets you as well. But
yeah.
those are the nice things that you like to hear for sure.
That's so touching. I listened to another podcast and the gal was talking about how every year when her kids get older, she has a themed cake made. So, of course, this popped in my head right now that kind of encapsulates what they're into at that age. And it kind of gives her a photo and she can spot, okay, I know that he was 9 in this one or whatever, just because of what they were into. And it's true. It's like nobody's ever sad to get a fun cake. And it's just such a happy thing to give
Yeah.
someone. I love it. That's
Believe me,
so
I've done enough Lightning McQueen cakes that I don't ever want to do it ever again. No, it's great when you get those repeat customers or clients. Because I've had one that, done her kids' cake probably 4 years in a row. And every year it's something, yeah, what's he in? Same thing. You ask those questions, what is he into now? What does he like? And so, after you do that, they kind of trust you creatively. She's like, yeah, go ahead, do whatever you want. And those are the best kind of clients you can get.
absolutely. So, when you're on these shows, is there anything that you wish you could go back and do differently? Any doesn't sound like you have any regrets, but anything that you say, oh man, I should have done a different flavor or used a different medium, anything like
Well, it's not kind of like that. I mean, you know, you hear the judges' comments. It's a TV show. I get it. They're doing there's certain things, and they've changed over the years for sure. What I enjoyed about doing it when I first got into it was like the same thing, showing a technique, showing something different, and actually learning something because that's how I learned. I used to watch, Duff and Ace and Cakes and Cake Boss and like, oh, they figure, oh, that's how they did it. Like, oh, that's nice. So they give you those clues. But being on the shows, I think uh, regrets. You know, I wish I would have won. Sure, but you know, it it's more about the experience.
yeah.
For me, I made some great friends. Over the years, and worked with some amazing artists that do amazing things. Um, you know, and got to see different places that I would have never done. I never thought, I would actually be doing cakes. So it has took me to different things where, doing these shows, I actually worked for this other group called the Food Artist Group. We did like food and wine weekends at the Busch Garden events. We were doing cakes in like 85-degree weather
My
outside
God.
and rainstorms and stuff. But, it was a fun time for sure. But the cake industry has kind of changed a lot. A lot of the expos are pretty much gone now. They're not not as prevalent as they were before. So yeah, I don't know what's going to happen. You know, if they are going to bring shows back again, or people are doing more stuff online or smaller kind of things. You probably know, like even during COVID and lockdown, people weren't ordering stuff. So it's like, then it, things change for sure. So, I mean, who knows what's going to happen, the next 5 years.
It, it's so interesting that you bring that up because in last week's episode, I interviewed a producer, as I had mentioned before we started recording, and he's been talking about how he keeps trying to pitch all of these different shows, and there's just no money there now because all of the influencers are out there, killing it, and which is amazing, and props to them, but it's killing the industry because all of the money for any advertisers are just going straight to the horse's mouth, so to speak, and it's kind of it's almost become unfortunate because a lot of the creators, they do the stuff on social media so that they can get the show, but now they're killing the shows on accident by their work. And it's like,
Yeah,
where is this all going? It's so strange.
no, and that's the unfortunate thing I think with, the reality TV and the way things are kind of going is because a lot of people want to do it now and they can get anybody that's like, oh yeah, I want to be on the show. So I think a lot of the quality and a lot of the I'm saying there are tons of talented people out there for sure, but I think I definitely have seen over the years the amount of quality kind of go down in the amount of the shows. And and they're always like cutting time down. Instead of we used to have 8 hours, now you have 5 or 6 hours, and like, all these other twists, add this twist and add this, and it's almost like a formula for you to fail. And unfortunately that's a bad light I think to put us in because, as doing these shows, you're not doing your best work because you're not spending 8 or 10 hours, focusing on one certain thing. You're doing 5 different things to get done in 1 hour. Um, so that's part of the TV world, and you just have to deal with it. And that's, I think, another reason why I do like doing them is because of that kind of adaptability. It makes you kind of think on the spot, work under pressure, and push yourself. How can I fix this? And that's kind of what I love too. I like that problem solving and trying to figure things out.
I'm in awe of you because I did it once and that was enough for me. I love puzzles. I'm a big problem solver, but I need my time.
Yeah, I
that
get it.
I think I had nightmares for maybe a full year after with just a clock ticking.
Yeah, that.
Out of everyone
Yeah,
I've
no.
ever interviewed, the clock is real in every single show except for Cooking with Cannabis. It was not.
Mm,
They
okay.
they were like, you guys got to do
Well,
whatever you got to do because it's getting wild in here.
I think, well, they don't really tell you, but I'm sure there's sometimes when they have that imaginary clock, and I was like, oh, there's another half hour on there, because you'll see some people that are kind of like behind or not be able to finish, and they can't have an unfinished cake there. So you know, I think that's a downfall, like you said, of people who haven't done the shows or the first time realize that time's real, and you got to time management in that kind of amount of time. And so I think that's one thing I've learned over all the shows that I've done is like, yeah, this is what you can do. This is what you can't do. You can't do it. Figure out plan B or C.
Do you feel like you kind of know how much time you need for everything, or do you practice before you go on the shows so okay, I know I can get this done in 5 hours, or what?
I'm not that organized, but no. There was one show, I think it was the gingerbread, not the gingerbread, yeah, the gingerbread cookie, Christmas cookie challenge. You actually had to time yourself doing what you're going to do and send that in because then you know how much time you have to do that. But no, a lot of things, when I did the gingerbread holiday showdown, I probably only touched gingerbread 3 weeks before. I had to kind of learn a little bit about what you could do with gingerbread. So that was kind of a new experience. It was nice to actually have partners that you could rely on. Because, like, one thing, yes, I'm not a baker. So recipes and putting the flavors together, I rely on someone else. Jesse Lesser is a great partner that I worked with a couple shows, and we work well together, gets what I'm thinking, and can do it without me even saying something. And then actually, I think you actually interviewed Monica Stout. She was
Yeah,
another assistant on
great.
Yeah. She's doing great things with Is It Cake. It's amazing where she's at now. But she's also assistant on me on that Holiday Gingerbread Showdown. And she was the one that was very organized. She had a computer and a spreadsheet of like, we need to do this, 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 this. And I'm like, perfect. I'm glad you did this. But I'm not going to say I'm not that mismanaged. I think I have a good idea of what my time management is of what I need to do and do certain things. So, um,
That's I get it. And Monica is great. Anybody who's listening, Monica actually makes the cakes that the contestants have to figure out if it's cake or not. Like she's behind the scenes. It's a great interview. She's is incredibly organized. I have to agree.
yeah.
I think she was sending me notes and like because I always send out these questions ahead of time, and she was sending me notes back. I don't think I've ever interviewed anybody as organized as she is. She's great.
Right.
Are you working on any shows or have anything in the mix coming up?
Um, I do not right now. You know, people that do shows, obviously, yes, you're under contract for a year, I think when it airs or something, or depending on what they kind of negotiate. Um, you know, I think there's a few that I'd love to go on. I mean, is it cake? Yeah, sure I would. But I'm definitely out of practice. I probably need to practice a little more if I want to try to get on that. I think I was asked about what was it? Crime Scene Kitchen. And that was another one.
Yeah.
It's crazy. They wanted like uh 3 to almost like a 3 week commitment on that.
3 week commitment.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean
Yeah.
if you make it all the way to the end. I mean, like I said, I work full time, so it's like I can't take 3 weeks off, for work to go do that. And I'm not about to quit my job for it. So yeah, so I've had the opportunity before where I've done like freelance and I could do some of those shows, but my work probably if something came up and it was something reasonable, they wouldn't say no, I don't think. So.
That's very cool. Well, do you have any advice for anyone who wants to get on these shows? I know we talked about, I was kind of leaning into it when I was asking about, do you time yourself ahead of time? But like, what advice would you give somebody who might want to try out for some of these shows?
I mean, it's probably different now than when I started doing the shows, uh, because what I was doing was just posting it on social media, doing my cakes. And, I started out doing it for friends and family and then started doing it for clients. And I was probably only doing it a couple of years. And actually, Lauren Kitchens she's out of Dallas, was always on like a lot of the Food Network Cake Challenge back in the day. She saw my stuff and she said, "Hey, do you mind if I send it to producers?" I'm like, go right ahead. Here I am just doing this out of my basement and, I'm going against people that own bakeries and do cakes full time. And, of course I lost, but
But
it
you
was a
had
great
fun.
experience. Oh yeah, totally. Got to meet Kerry Vincent, got to meet Ian G. Hard. And, I saw him at, I think the Baking Expo a couple of years ago, and I'm like, do you remember me from like 10 years ago? And he's like, oh yeah, I remember you. So, things like that. It's always kind of nice to be relevant, and that's the thing too, because since I don't do it full time, it's kind of weird how I've kind of been in this industry now, and at least hopefully, I don't know if people know me or not. I don't know. I'm still, nobody knows, but, be able to like, go to the expos and, I actually rep for an airbrush company. And so that what gets me out to the shows and stuff. But advice, I guess, for people now, I would say is, yeah, just make stuff and start posting it. Make sure it's good. There's a lot of crappy stuff out there to say, but you know, I it's unfortunate that I think it relies so much on the social media aspect of it now, people getting all the followers and stuff. I get it though, but I mean, I think if you stay true to yourself and do what you like doing and try to push yourself and do more, I think that's a good kind of moral compass for you for being on these shows because, it is hard work. It's, they make you think, yeah, you could do this cake in an hour because the show's only an hour. And I'm like, no, you don't see the planning. You don't see all the structure. You don't see all the behind stuff that in hours you're doing to make this show. Because actually, I'll go back to again the Hollywood Gingerbread Showdown for the finale. we were filming, or they actually filmed us, but we were in the studio for 10 days prepping for that finale.
Oh my
So
gosh.
working through the whole week, basically making items for that. So yeah, they don't show you, no one wants to see 10 hours of boring stuff or you prepping. So
No, no, definitely not. Well, it sounds like they had more than enough to leave on the cutting room floor to get you guys to get that finale.
true.
My God, 10 days, that's wild.
Yeah.
Um, well, where can we watch the shows that you're on? Can you, name them off for anyone who
Yeah.
wants to, and
Um,
especially Killer Cakes, where can we watch
sure. The shows I've been on, like I said, I've been on like 10 different shows. I do have an IMDb page. If you search me up there, it shows all those shows I've listed on. Most have been on Food Network. I mean, here, I'll run it down quick. Okay. So Food Network Challenge, Sugar Dome, Halloween Wars Season 3, Halloween Wars Hayride Horror, Holiday Wars Pilot, Holiday Gingerbread Showdown, The Big Bake, Foodtastic, Christmas Cookie Challenge, Gingerbread, and then Killer Cakes. Killer Cakes is on Amazon Prime, and most you can find probably on Food Network or Discovery Plus. I think Disney did take off Foodtastic from the rotation. Not sure why, but maybe it wasn't as successful as I thought it would be. But that was a fun show too. So if you want some Halloween stuff or holiday stuff, I'm in there. I'm the little Asian guy in the back just working away. Fuck, it's just how I
that?
work.
I love it. I will definitely add your IMDb plus any other stuff that you want to the show notes. Are you still posting on social media? And if so, what social media handles can people check out all of your amazing work on?
Sure. I post a lot of stupid stuff.
That's
I
okay.
get
So do
bored with
I.
social media. I do a lot of, yeah, if you saw my stuff, yeah, a lot of cats. That's another story. That's another episode. I'll tell you why. I do have Instagram page, do have Facebook, of course, TikTok and X or Twitter, Threads. So I think if you go to my Instagram, I'll link to the other ones as well if you find them. But on Instagram, Custom Cakes by Mark. On Facebook, Piece of Cake, Custom Cakes by Mark. And then that one has most all my cakes I've done. So
Great, great. And anyone listening, if you're in the car right now, don't worry. I will add all of this in the show notes. So please keep your eyes on the road. Well, thank you so much. I know, everybody, we had to wait until Mark was done with his work day. And thank you. I'm sure you're exhausted on a Monday sitting here with me talking about cakes. Is there anything else you wanted to share or plug?
it's all good. Do I want to plug Grex Airbrush? Sure.
All right, Grex
They're
Airbrush.
it's a great tool to use. Don't get intimidated by it. Everybody gets intimidated by the airbrush and stuff, but it's another instrument for you to do your creativity, and it ups what you can do. Uh, like I said, be creative, do your own stuff, come up with something new, and don't try to copy other people's things. And be yourself, and put yourself out there. I mean, if you don't put yourself out there, then no one's gonna know who you are.
That is great, great advice. And from somebody who's done 10 shows, I'm in awe. You're
Well,
amazing.
great.
Well,
Thank you.
thank you so, so much, Mark, for carving out some time out of your very busy schedule. Everyone, please make sure to check the show notes. I will put as much as I possibly can find about Mark in there so that you can dive in deeper and check out, his crazy Instagram cats and whatnot. Be sure to stay tuned to the next episode of Who's Reality Cooking, and we will see you next week. Bye.